So not only is Zach Wilson unable to go in week 1, we might not see him until week 4. Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary back with another video. Today is going to be a little bit of a different episode. Before we get started, just where you can follow me on social media, Matt O'Leary NY. You guys should know the drill by now. Also, Just Jets podcast, new episodes drop every single Wednesday. You can call in, leave me your questions. I'll get to them on the show. So I was going to, and I still did, I was going to talk with Joe Caporoso of Badlands. They just released their season preview, so I wanted to talk to him a little bit about the upcoming season. And then we got this bomb of a news. So just a quick take on that, and then we'll get into the conversation. I am stunned that it went from maybe he can play to not only can he not play, but it's now week 4. So anyway, I will have my preview for Jets Ravens out later on, but just wanted to get out this conversation that I had with Joe Caporoso. If you don't follow along with them already, you should. At Badlands, they do a ton of great content, him and Connor Rogers. So let's hop into it. What went wrong with Zach Wilson? Here's our conversation. All right, I'd like to welcome on Joe Caporoso of Badlands. Joe, how's it going?
It's going well. Thank you for having me. Week 1, we made it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys over at Badlands, I know you guys just dropped the season preview. So can you go into a little bit like what goes into putting something like that together?
Sure. Yeah, we're really lucky that we have a guy in Dan Eason who does just phenomenal like graphic design. I think the way he put this together is a lot like, reminds me a little bit of like what The Ringer does with their fantasy draft guides and NFL draft guides. And it's very easy to search and pull together a mix of articles and videos. So rather than just doing what we usually do, which is sort of a series of short articles and podcasts, we really built it into a guide so you can get a full position by position breakdown of every spot of the roster, record predictions from everyone across Badlands and Turn on the Jets, a look at their offensive and defensive schemes, a look at their X factors, and a mix and match of different video, audio, and articles to bring it to you in ideally as enjoyable of a way as possible. So it was fun to build on what we did with the draft guide and bring this to the season preview guide and get it all together a few days before the season started. I'm just happy to have it out there. We're lucky we got a talented group of people around us who were, excited to dive in and get their thoughts out on the season.
Yeah, no doubt. And a common theme that kept coming up was everything kind of hinging on Zach Wilson here in year 2, which leads right into our first topic today. Zach Wilson not only isn't able to go in week 1, apparently won't be good until maybe week 4. We don't know.
At the earliest.
Yeah, exactly. At the earliest. So what was your takeaway when you heard that news today?
I was surprised. I think more so about the way that it was messaged. I think when the injury first happened, I think some people were like, yeah, he probably comes back week 2 or week 3. And having him come back on week 4 isn't that far removed from it. But going from he's going to work, he looked good, he's going to work out today. And if he looks good, he's going to be good to start week 1 to he's coming back week 4 at the earliest, which makes it sound like it's a stretch that he's even back for week 4 and turns a 2 to 4 week injury into an 8 to 9 week injury. Was a bit jarring the way it was delivered out to the press. And I think for all the things we love about Robert Saleh, the messaging around injuries has been a little wonky and inconsistent and seems to create more problems that are necessary. If the Jets and Wilson, as he said today and then kind of backtracked on, knew he was out the first 3 games no matter what, then when you leak the diagnosis, say a 6 to 8 week injury, and don't hang out any impression that he might be ready week 1. Don't set people's expectations in that way. And it just kind of seemed very like arbitrary. Like the Jets decided the second he got hurt, they want to bench him the entire first month of the season, regardless of what happens. And they'll see how things go. And then they'll see if they plug him in at that standpoint. I mean, if the injury is the injury we were told it is, it shouldn't take him that long to be 100%. He really should be 100% by next week or week 3 at the absolute latest. So overall, is it a huge deal he's going to miss these first 3 games? I don't necessarily think it swings the pendulum too much on whether they're going to go 1-2 or 2-1, or hopefully not 0-3. Just the way it was messaged, and I think the overarching frustration of another year of the first round quarterback missing a fourth of the season or a fifth of the season. It's happened with Darnold every year. It's now happened both years with Wilson, where in the best case, he misses 3 starts, but it sounds like it could be even more than that, which is frustrating because a huge part of this year is figuring out if he is the guy. And you want to know going into year 3, you only know if he gets enough action. And he only started, 13 games last year. He missed 4, really played 12 and a half games. You want to see him get as many starts as possible this year. And I really hope that it does not go any further than the Pittsburgh game. And maybe they were even being overpromise I'm saying it wrong. Under promise, over deliver. Maybe he comes back week 3. Because again, with this injury, he should be ready to go by next week. This isn't a 7-8 week injury. This is like a 4 to 5 week injury, unless there's more to it than we're being told.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely surprising to go from literally 24 hours earlier. He was on the Michael K show talking about how there's an outside chance he plays in week 1, maybe. And then it's week 4. So you kind of hinted at it a little bit, but I wanted to get your take on what is it that we need to see from Zach Wilson in year 2 to make you believe that he is the guy going forward?
Well, I think hopefully he comes back and he starts straight through and plays 14 straight games and that doesn't get interrupted. I want to see the yards per attempt up way closer to 7. You can't compete with a 6.1 yards per attempt. That has to be up in the 7 range. You have to see a couple games where he throws for 300 yards. That needs to be something that happens for your quarterback in the NFL. He's got to produce more touchdowns. You can't have 9 passing touchdowns over 13 games and be competitive. Can he get that number up to 18, 19, 20 over 14 games while still keeping the rushing touchdowns? He seemed to do a very good job of cutting back on the turnovers and interceptions down the stretch last year. So continuing to build on that. Don't have the New England game or the Denver game where you stack 2 to 4 interceptions. Protect the ball the way you did down the stretch last year while still producing more big plays, more yards, and more touchdowns. I don't think we're going to get a stat line that jumps off the page, unfortunately. I think candidly, the best case scenario is that he puts together a stat line that looks a lot like Sam Darnold's stat line in year 2, which was like 19 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. Now, I think there could be more context to those numbers that make it a better year than Darnold's. If you remember that year from Darnold, he really did not finish the year playing strong, and the Jets were just winning games because the defense was playing well, and they won like 13-7 and 13-6. If Wilson can get better as the season goes on, and he looks better with those numbers, I think you'll feel better if they look about the same on paper. It's just hard with 14 games to be like, yeah, he's going to throw for 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. That doesn't seem pragmatic, especially with the kind of offense they're likely to run. Just have a healthy touchdown to interception split and improve that yards per attempt as a starting point, and then we take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I'm kind of in that same boat. And a lot of times when people ask me, I usually say, I think it's going to be more of an eye test thing where you just look and it feels like, okay, he has command of the offense. He's not having those silly mistakes that we saw from him early on where he was like bouncing screen passes and stuff like that. So for me, I think it's just looking comfortable. And something else that you mentioned too, playing the 14 games in a row, I think would be big because I'd be concerned if he gets injured again. And then you're looking at like, I don't know, 8 or 9 games. Cause then at that point you're like, what do you do going into that year?
Durability matters. It's an important part of the evaluation. And I think a question on him is, can he stay healthy at his size? And part of this offseason was him bulking up so he could be more durable. But if he only plays 8 or 9 games this year, they're going to have a ton of question marks going into next year. And that's not where you want to be. Also, if he plays 8 or 9 games this year, unless Flacco has a real vintage performance, that means we're probably picking in that top 10 again. There's going to be talk about, should they take a quarterback? We have to deal with that whole cycle again. Do you try to trade for a disgruntled quarterback if it doesn't work out with Kyler Murray or someone else? All that talk will swirl if Wilson only plays 8 or 9 games this year because there won't be a big enough sample size to make a determination on him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just another guy who is going to be super important to the future of this team is Robert Saleh. I wanted to know from you, what does he have to show you in year 2 that's going to look different from year 1 to make you think that he's also the coach of the future here?
I mean, I don't care if he stays kind of sloppy with the press and the media on the injury stuff if the performance on the field improves. Like, he should get better at that stuff in year 2, and it's still a work in progress. But I want to see the game management improve. I want to see them be more aggressive. We'll find out pretty quick in week 1. You're 7-8 point underdogs at home for a reason. Don't punt inside the 50-yard line. Don't try a 58-yard field goal on 4th and inches. Don't punt if you're down by 10 with 7 minutes left and you essentially forfeit the game. Don't use timeouts in the first and third quarter. If there are opportunities to be even more aggressive and pull some kind of trick play or go for it on the opposite side of the 50 on 4th and 2 to try to get some momentum, you have to do those things when you're an underdog. You're not better than the Ravens. You're not better coach than the Ravens. You don't have more talent than the Ravens. So you have to play with a little less to lose and be a little more aggressive and can't just be so conservative. So I think he got a little better in the second half of the year last year, but we're going to learn a lot. They're going against a great coaching staff week 1 who had all offseason to prepare. Can they avoid what happened against a pretty mediocre coaching staff week 1 last year, where they really got knocked on their ass in the first half and then kind of got it together in the second half? They can't do that this year. It's going to be 21-0 at halftime and everyone's going to be furious. So how do you avoid being down double digits in the first half like they were in the first 5 of their 6 games last year? If you think of every game that started the year last year, they're down 16-0 to Carolina right away. They're down 20-0 to New England right away. They're down 20-0 to Denver right away. They have the nice Tennessee game. Even that game, they were down 10-0, I think, before they came back. And then Atlanta, we were all excited. They're down 14-0 right away. And then the New England game was a total bloodbath before the bye week. So how do you actually start fast and be competitive in these games? That's what I want to see more of from them.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And I think the big one, well, 2 that you mentioned that really stand out to me. I know Greg Zuerlein has a stronger leg, but I don't need him attempting 55-plus yard field goals with, regularity here. I agree. I think you have to be more aggressive in today's modern NFL. And just overall, I feel like too often the team came out flat last year where it was like struggling. And whether it was Wilson or just overall in general, this team wasn't, moving the ball or doing a whole lot in the first half. Do you think that with Ulbricht's struggles last year, do you think he takes over more control of the defense at all?
I think if the defense looks like they did last year and looks like they did in the preseason, it's only a matter of time. Ulbricht's sort of the first guy on the hot seat this year. He'll be the scapegoat guy if they start 1-7 and their defense is really bad again. That's the first move Saleh could pull. I'm going to take over control of the defense. I'm going to call plays. And ultimately, he would probably be the first fall guy. Now, I hope it doesn't come to that. The defense has a lot more talent. They should be improved. They're healthy, which is great. That side of the ball has not been impacted in any way really by injuries, especially because it sounds like DJ Reed is going to be a full go week 1. So you have Lawson. You got your rookies you added. Everyone's healthy. So if hopefully Ulbricht can do the job so Saleh can coach the entire team and not just become a defensive coordinator. But if this defense is a bottom 2, bottom 3 defense in the NFL through, a third of the season, I think that would be the first sort of move you see on them trying to do something to shake things up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you there. And just, talking about having a much improved unit on the defensive side of the ball in terms of talent. What's your expectation for week 1 going up against Lamar Jackson, who's obviously someone who could run, and then trying to cover the tight end, which is something this team just seems like they can never do?
I mean, in many ways, it's a really bad matchup for the Jets, if I'm trying to be honest with myself. They've struggled with mobile quarterbacks, and everyone struggles with Lamar Jackson when he takes off. They've struggled with tight ends. The Ravens are going to run their offense through a ton of targets to Mark Andrews. I know they're weak at running back, but I also feel like there's been a history of backup running backs gashing the Jets periodically. And under Harbaugh, the Ravens have been really good week 1. They've been pretty dominant, actually, week 1. So there's a reason the Jets are a touchdown underdogs at home. I do think they have a lot more talent, and I will likely talk myself into them finding a way to cover before we get to kickoff. I just hope it's a true competitive cover and not, sort of a weak backdoor cover like we had with Carolina last year, where you're really down 16-0 right away, and they kind of crept back, but never really had a chance to take the game. I want to see this game get to halftime, 10-10. I want to go into the fourth quarter with a real chance to win the game. And look, if ultimately Baltimore outlasts them and wins 23-17, it's going to be hard to kill the Jets in that scenario because Baltimore is probably a playoff team this year. They might win their division. The Jets are not going to be a playoff team this year unless something crazily unexpected happens. So I think we'll know that they're moving in the right direction if there's 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and it's 20-17 and they're right in the game and they've kind of went toe to toe with them. And then you see how it shakes out. Maybe there's a turnover. Maybe a ball bounces your way for once and you steal a game. Week 1 is a giant time to steal a game. I don't think I'm not going to pick them to win this game. I think they do have a very good chance to steal one week 2, even though it's on the road. This matchup's, I think, of the first 3 is probably for them the toughest of the 3, even though the Bengals did go further than the Ravens last year.
Yeah, I totally agree with just this one being so tough because one, like you said, Baltimore seems to always start strong, and Lamar and the offense that they're going to run. I mean, this Jets defense struggled so bad against the run. Obviously, personnel is a little bit different, but from the Jets offense perspective, would you expect to see them try to come out and run the ball a lot in week one? The reason I ask is because the strength, it seems, of that Ravens defense could be on that interior. So what's your take there?
You know, I think we've talked a lot this offseason that we think the Jets really want to be the 49ers and they want to try to run the ball a lot more maybe than most teams would. And they drafted Breece Hall. They signed Laken Tomlinson. They spent a first-round pick on AVT. They've built the personnel to run the football a lot. I'm a little concerned that they're going to come out a little too conservative because they didn't show signs of being able to run the ball well in the preseason. I don't want to take too much from the preseason, but I just don't want to see repeated 2nd and 12, 3rd and 9, because they're running the ball on 1st and 2nd down. Now, LaFleur got a lot better on that as the season went on. Ultimately, he was pretty good last year. Actually, I would say very good in the back like half third of the season. So I just hope that they're a little more imaginative on early downs. I think the chalk expectation would be to come out. They're going to try to run the ball like crazy. I think it's going to be hard to do that against this Ravens defense. So can you come out on 1st down, play action, hit Elijah Moore for 15 yards, get moving, stay in front of the chains a little bit, and then integrate some of the run game. You know, Flacco, part of the pros are supposed to be, he's a veteran. He can operate the offense. You have talent at receiver and tight end and running back catching the football. Use the screen game to your advantage. Use Tyler Conklin. Use Garrett Wilson in a package of plays and take some shots to keep the Ravens a little soft up front. So you do have some running lanes for Michael Carter and Breece Hall. So I liked what LaFleur did last year. My hope is he comes out with a bit of a creative game plan and allows the Jets to score some early points and get some confidence going. And this isn't one of those games where Baltimore goes right down the field and goes up 7-0, and the Jets quickly go 3 and out because they ran the ball on 1st and 2nd down. So I'm pretty optimistic that LaFleur will be a little more varied in his approach than we may initially expect.
Okay. Love to hear that. I hope that's the case. I'm very tired of the 1st down, run up the middle, 2nd down, run up the middle, and then you're in 3rd and long. Maybe it's just Adam Gase still hanging over my head, but it just feels like they've been doing that for decades at this point.
Yes. We need to get past that. And that, again, you're underdogs. You're not going to win on 3rd and 9 with Joe Flacco and that pass rush coming after them. Be aggressive on early downs. Use his arm strength. Let him do what he does best. Fling the ball downfield and draw pass interference penalties. You have the receivers who can do that. So hopefully they're more aggressive.
Absolutely. So where can people find your stuff and more about Badlands?
So Badlands is on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Badlands TOJ. Articles, videos, podcasts all throughout the week. I'm on Twitter at Joe Caporoso, always sharing all that content as well. So definitely check us out. No shortage of content from Connor and myself throughout the season, and excited to go get it going this year. And thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much for joining me. For Joe Caporoso, I'm Matt O'Leary. We'll talk to you next time.